Welcome back. Good to see everybody. And today we want to dive in and talk about whether or not when you're ready to make that return to work, you should naturally go back to what you did before,
Right.
or maybe pivot into something new. And how do you determine which one to do?
Yeah. And, when you have that professional experience, you have that degree that you invested
Mhm.
in, and you are skilled at this,
Seems
it's
pretty
hard to
obvious.
say goodbye to that.
Right. I actually think that if you're thinking this,
Yeah.
you need to give yourself some credit.
Yes.
Because if you're even thinking about these two options, that means you're actually starting to think, you know what, I'm a different person than I was
Yes.
when I left the workplace. Maybe it is
Absolutely.
important for me to explore other options.
Yeah. And maybe it was never the right choice to begin with.
Often that's the case
Yeah.
because our first jobs we take
Mhm.
at 22 are because mom or dad said, hey, you should try engineering because you'll always have a job.
Yeah. So, in that vein,
Mhm.
number one is to assess the pros and cons of your old job, that
Right.
old career that you had. So you want to assess the pros and cons. Let's talk
And-
about that.
And that's going to be kind of a steeped in time conversation or self conversation because you'll be thinking back to what you used to
Right.
do. But think about how you felt
Yep.
after work, how you felt when you left for work. Did you feel kind of a pit in your stomach every Monday morning? That's not always a really good sign. What were the things that really filled you up? What were the things that did not?
Mhm.
And it's a really important thing to do. And I like to do it the old fashioned way, make a little T at the top of a page,
Yep.
plus, minus, and just write things down, brainstorm.
Yes. Yeah. So that's great to
Mhm.
know that information, but you have to really take a look. And that brings us to our next point
Right.
of you have to take a look at your current priorities, the priorities that are right in front of you today.
Because
So-
usually if you've taken a job, you've taken time off from your work and a career
Mhm.
pause, it's because you had a major life change.
Right.
And with those major life changes come shifts in priorities and values. So you may have been working. I mean, you and I both were in jobs, we were working all the time. When we made our return to work, we knew that that kind of schedule wasn't going to work anymore. So we had a new priority for flexibility that may not have been met as well with our prior jobs.
But oftentimes we'll have students that come through our course
Mhm.
where they have a financial imperative now.
Right. That's
They
right.
may be newly divorced.
Yeah.
They may have a child that's going off to school and the money that they saved, didn't net.
Yeah.
They needed it.
Which
to
is
get
ways
that
for
saved.
most people sending kids to college.
Exactly. So that money
Mhm.
need, that financial need, can trump,
Exactly. Those
and,
other
and may
things.
put you back
Yeah.
to this skill set that you already have
Yeah.
to get that income stream. Doesn't mean you can't have a long-term goal
That's right.
for something else, but it
Yeah.
definitely can trump.
So another thing, another blank piece of paper, writing down what are the things that are most important for me to get out of my work.
Right.
And then the third piece is think about what do you bring to the workplace,
Right.
right? So your assets. So like, as you mentioned earlier, your degree, your experience, your
Mhm.
training. But during that time that you've taken a career break, you've also acquired new skills and experiences. So taking a look at your new brand
Yep.
and thinking, okay, what can I bring? So the first couple points are what do I need from my work? Where's my best fit?
Yep.
But also think about where do I have the best opportunity to bring something
Yeah.
to an organization.
Right.
Yep.
And then you want to explore those options.
Right.
You actually want to take
Yeah.
time and really explore those different options that you
And this
have.
is something, in fact, we should pop in the Explore and Assess guide because this would be
Sure.
helpful. I think we've done it
Mhm.
before, but for those of you who may be new, this is the guide that really helps you through the steps of exploring and assessing an opportunity.
Right.
And what we're really looking for is not just Googling online, talking to people.
Mhm.
You can get some information about the skills required and the responsibilities of a position, but you can't get a good feel for a company or a field or a position without talking to a human.
Absolutely. And you really want to hear what, all of that role encompasses.
Exactly.
Or that new career path encompasses. That includes if there's any education that you need,
Right.
that you are going to want to factor in the financials of all of
Right.
that. So really, really vetting it to
Yeah.
a place and a point where you can make an educated decision for yourself
That's right.
about, is this time where I want to pivot or do a career change? Or is this really not something that fits me?
And doing that exercise, doing that exploring and assessing is also going to help you understand give you the confidence to say, yes, I can do this.
Yes.
I do have what I need for this position, or in the example you gave, maybe you don't, and you need to develop those skills. I think it's also important as a footnote to explore and assess your old field. If you've taken a longer career break,
Mhm.
I started out in tech sales,
Right.
right? I mean, 20 years later, it was a completely different field. The whole way they delivered the services, the whole way they developed the business was
Mhm.
different. So if you've taken a long gap, use that Explore and Assess guide also to revisit what you used to do.
Right. And that's just vetting the process,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So the last one is, so you make this change potentially, or you don't, is you can always change your mind,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
don't have to feel locked in. And oftentimes we do this and we feel stuck.
Right.
And when you were talking earlier about how some of our students will go back
Yeah.
to school, or will go to school originally because
Right.
your dad said
You'll
"You should
always have
become
a
an
job."
accountant,
Yeah.
you'll always have a job.
Yeah.
And the reality is you don't have to stay there.
Mhm.
You don't.
Actually, this generation coming up isn't staying anywhere for long. A couple of years is enough. So it is no longer kind of a black mark on your resume if you move around. But one other really important point about pivoting, if you decide after doing this exploring and assessing that you want to make a change, is just remember that sometimes it's a two-step process. It is much easier to pivot when you're already in an organization.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
one strategy may be, and a lot of our students have done this, go back to the field where you've got the most robust skill set.
Yep.
Give yourself a year.
Yep.
And then once you're an established employee,
Mhm.
you've got some institutional knowledge, you've got some connections, you've got a reputation, then make the pivot. And this is what millennials are doing
Mhm.
en masse. They are going into organizations and pivoting regularly. They're making lots of lateral moves because they want to acquire
Mhm.
new knowledge and skills. So it's not something that maybe 10 years ago was frowned upon or not even ever considered. Now it's something that's really common. So
Absolutely.
that might be your best bet for pivoting too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there you have it. Those are the different ways that you can assess whether a pivot or a change is for you and a return to work this year.
Yeah.
If you liked what you heard here today, you can hit that subscribe button so you get our new content each week.
Mhm.
And you can also visit us on our website at www.preparetolaunchu.com. Thanks.